Hey, we're still hard at it in the TheEZGZ garage. How you guys doing today? Knowledge is power, but it also drives you crazy. Right now I'm hooking up my alternator. I'm running a wire through a piece of fuel line, and I was trying to get a little, you could make 1,000 trips to the store. All I need is a little plastic loop electrical tie down to clamp over that fuel, but no, I was too stubborn to go to the store, and I just had some what we called holy iron, and so I'm gonna just put a loop on there and then come straight back to my starting motor. Alright, moving forward on the 2110, I pulled the engine off of the tub buggy. Takes a late style clutch and pressure plate. I guess it wouldn't matter on the disc, but the pressure plate is the finger type. I'll show you. This is the original Kennedy pressure plate that I had balanced when I originally built this engine, and we're going to reuse that. I'm going to use a solid cushlock disc. There's no springs or anything in here. I'm not sure at what point that's really totally necessary, but why not? Now I've got 3 marks on my flywheel, punch marks, and the balancer did the same thing on the pressure plate. So I know which direction to put it on without throwing the engine balance off. If you have your rotating assembly professionally balanced, be sure and take your pressure plate in with you. I really don't like using these Kennedy pressure plates, but it's I know a standard pressure plate probably won't handle the torque that this thing's putting out. And I just want to get it in the car. It's really hard on your clutch assembly to use these heavy-duty pressure plates. If you're building a 1776 or smaller engine, don't just jump out there and try a stock one first. If you can find an old SACHS, S-A-C-H-S, or something that came out of a bus, I wouldn't use the old bus ones with the coil springs on it on a high performance engine that's going to rev a lot higher, but this is a broken main shaft out of one of my transmissions. Happened on a sand trip. Makes a great alignment tool. And we're just going to go around and tighten all these to 18 foot-pounds of torque, and I'll turn you back on when I lower the engine off the stand. A lot of people have asked me in the past, how do you get those engines on and off that stand? If you've got a friend and you're both in a good mood, two guys can do it. Mount the bracket to the back and then just poke the one hole. This is the way pressure plates used to be made. When you got stuff from Kennedy, you didn't have to specify early or late. It had this centerpiece in there for the early, and then it had this clock spring. You put this inside, and then you sort of like screw this retainer back in behind these hooks. Matter of fact, it should be. That'd be a better place to keep it. and that way they just sold the one pressure plate. I don't know if there's a difference in price. I think what they did is just they did it. The piece that comes for the earlier ones was cheaper, and rather than have it removable, they went with a low buck, just like everything and everybody else. And that's the whole automotive industry. Never assume that these Volkswagens were the latest and greatest thing of their time. They were a cheap economy car. They had their share of problems right from the factory, and the factory made a lot of changes. But you also got to remember, in the automotive industry, the most important thing to them is making it through the warranty period. That's what the most important thing is. All right, I've got that torqued down, and it's kind of hard to turn over. I didn't even have to use a flywheel lock. You can see the balancing holes that were drilled to get this thing balanced out for the higher RPM. I am going to run this wire, I wish I had a thicker wire, to my starting motor and through a piece of fuel line strapped to the side of the shroud, and then up to my battery side, battery plus side. The D plus is for your idiot light, and I'll have to make an extension on my wire on the car. When I do that, I'll go with a different, better breather, but for a first test drive, today is April 1st, April Fool's Day, so we'll see if I'm going to look like a fool or not. Take a motorcycle strap, just wrap it around this exhaust outlet and this one here, and then I'll use this homemade cherry picker I made in a senior in high school to lift it up and set it on the floor. This is the 1776 that I just took out of the car, and these little furniture carts from Harbor Freight sure are handy for moving stuff around on the floor here in the shop. This exhaust is probably going to be an issue here, but I think you get the general idea. And now I want to get my 17. Alright, what are we waiting for? Let's take this thing around the block. At least. Maybe the lake. Nice sunny April Fool's Day. Let's see what kind of surprises I got waiting for me. on. Oh. Well, it's running. We're moving. And I got nothing to prove, so I'm just gonna take it easy. The carbs aren't perfect yet either, but it's good enough. Second gear, sneak through. It was only pink. Compression check, 148 pounds with the carbs on and wide open on cylinders 1, 2, and 4. Number 3 was 140, and I'm at 8.4 to 1 compression. Flooring it. I'm just, when I break in rings, you don't want to go a constant speed all the time. You want to accelerate a little bit and then let off. It forces the rings to bite, and then when you let off, it kind of spits it out the exhaust valve. There's a couple little canyon roads that I like to go on. It's perfect, but just to begin with, we're gonna go just around the lake. Unfortunately, the dog's too big for my seat, so I gotta come up with something for that. I don't wanna always leave her home, but probably will. You got these roundabouts where you live? Man, I didn't like them at first. I still don't like them, but I'm getting used to them. Okay, there's a third gear. Let's see, there's nobody behind me. I'm gonna slow it down to, there's 20 miles an hour at third gear, and I'm just gradually pushing on the gas. I'm not trying to accelerate. I'm just feeling it for smoothness. That's what I like. I got I think these are 28-inch tall tires on the back, and that's the way I like it. Starting to get a little water back in the lakes here. All that snow melting, I'm not surprised. Good. Talking aggravates my cough. Okay, 1500 in fourth gear. That's the kind of engine I want. An engine that will rev up. Once we get close to home, I'm gonna give it a little more gas. It's just a matter of building trust and making sure I didn't forget to do something. One time I did a little short run like this and decided to check the valves. I put the valve cover off, and the lock nut was not on one of the rocker arms. And oh, that reminds me, I want to get some of those little dime-sized super magnets and put them in my valve covers. That is what saved it. The nut went straight over to that magnet. Well, I don't know if it went straight over, but when I took the valve cover off, there was the nut. And I guess I just forgot to tighten it down when I was adjusting the valves. I don't know. Might have dropped the wrench, or the feeler gauges, or the phone might have rang. I don't know. But those are the kinds of things. Whoa, look at those mountains. I went up there yesterday with my nephews, and it was snowing on the way up. When we got to Estes Park, the sun was out. Went into Rocky Mountain National Park, saw some bighorn sheep, and on the way up, saw some elk when we got back to town. Town down here, not up in the mountains. Elk. Those are elk out there. Transmission feeling good. I'm going to put it second because I want to rev it a little bit. Man, no problem getting $5,000 with stock valve heads. Yeah, there was plenty left. I don't have a reason to go over 5. That'll get the job done. And with that much torque, with a stock transmission, when I go to 3rd, I'm still in my power band, strong. Well, that makes me feel better. Ha! Yeah! I bled on it a little bit too when I was putting it in. That always helps. I'll work on those carbs a little bit better. I don't have to tweak them. The idle's okay. It's the carburetor linkage that needs attention. They need to lift off at precisely the same time and be the same progress throughout. All right. Well, thanks for coming along. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subbing. TheEZGZ out. Don't forget to disconnect your fuel line.